This was generated by Plus AI. So I wanted to show you a little example of Plus AI in action. I didn't edit it. You could see that the numbers are wrong on the right, that the years. But I said, let me, hey, this is a GenAI overview, so let me go ahead and give you something I generated. I'm using Plus AI for the very first time this week as a 7-day trial, so I've never used it before, and the jury's out. I don't know if I like it completely yet. It does this kind of stuff, so it's not perfect. Maybe it will improve. But I'm going to talk about today, try to give you a little bit of idea of generative AI timeline, where we came from. It's been a 65-year evolution of AI to agent. So I'm trying to give you a little taste of the evolution and a little bit about the LLM architecture and challenges and limitations. And I'll touch on the transformer model. Every slide that I show you today, we could have a meetup on every single slide that I'm going to show you today, okay? And probably a week's worth of presentation. So it'll be a very rich presentation, and I likely won't get through all of it today. So what I've kind of budgeted is it's 7:32. I'm already really 30 minutes behind the presentation because I only allocated 30 minutes for like the GenAI part, and then the rest of the time for both all about introduction to AI agents, and I have multiple demos for you of AI agents, which we may not get to also in it. The screen makes it a little hard for me to navigate all of this and do them fast. So I expect some issues, slowdowns when I'm trying to demo things to you in this setup. Let me switch it to here. So maybe I'll feel a little bit more comfortable if I stand up for a minute. So I can just look at the screen. You'll see me switching from my glasses to my other glasses if I need to see the computer. But we went from I like to use Andrew Ng's phrase, AI is the new electricity. I love that term. It is the new electricity. It's going to be everywhere. If you don't know that, you need to start using AI like I'm using. If you're a developer, if you want to teach others, if you want to help others, you need to start using AI in everything you do. My wife, for example, a year ago, she was like, "Glenn, don't talk to me about ChatGPT. Leave me alone." She didn't want to hear it. And so for like a year, I didn't bug her about it because I'll talk about AI 24 hours a day, right? So she's sick of hearing me about AI. But last month, we needed to do our landscaping, and she did ChatGPT with the new Imagen picture rendering, and she didn't ask me. She did this on her own, but she created a beautiful landscape for the front of her house that was flowers and a sidewalk and everything. And I said, "Oh, wow, Kathy, how'd you do that?" She said, "ChatGPT." And I said, "That's perfect, let's do it." So we've been getting quotes from patio people or some sidewalk people to get that implemented. And she's been working on the landscape every day in the backyard. So she's eager to move to the front yard and do it. Dan will get to see it someday, whenever we can afford it. Because it didn't actually price it. It's pricey, right? It didn't tell you the price yet. Anyway, so you can tell that I'm very excited about AI, but I've been through machine learning as my first journey. I did it via Udacity, AI in Python, and got a machine learning nano degree from Udacity online. It took me like a year to do that back in 2019. That was when I first really dived into it and said, my entire career I'm dedicating to AI. And then that was all about deep learning. So machine learning, I'll give you another slide that we're going to deeper view into that. But AI consists of machine learning, deep learning, generative AI. And then as generative AI, you've heard about LLMs and all of the image creation and audio creation and text creation and everything that comes around it. Just not go. I sat down and messed myself up. Okay, wait. I'm sorry. How do I do? Oh, oh Lord, just a minute. I apologize. I don't. Okay, let me do it this way. Sorry about that. I don't know my way around the screens here. Okay, so we've been through about 65 years of evolution, all the way from Shannon Turing, the ELIZA, which is the first rules-based sort of app backpropagation by Gregory Hinton, the LeNet by Jan LeCun. I do like to talk about historical figures when I do a lot of talks. LeCun is the chief of AI at Meta. And deep learning, AlexNet 2012, and this was the sort of foundation, LeCun's and the deep learning, this was sort of the very foundation of what is to come next. You see some of the pioneers at the bottom that I mentioned, Alan Turing, Joseph Weinbaum, Geoffrey Hinton, won the prize, a Nobel Prize for his work. Goodfellow did GANs, Generative Adversarial Networks, and Dario Model is running Anthropic. Let me go ahead and go on to, we had these first, okay, so where, give me a second. Oh, okay, I'm just kind of, okay, all right. This is kind of the big picture of where AI is going, right? We're at the age of today where you're starting to see specialized agents evolve, and we're entering into where you get into what's called multiple agents, right? You might hear, you start hearing everybody saying, well, you're going to have HR departments replaced, right? You're also hearing about, all right, people's jobs will get replaced. The creative industry is getting impacted, right? Companies have already started saying that, well, we don't need to hire all these people. We can just, like Facebook just had an announcement like yesterday or this past week saying all of their ads are going to be AI, right? So you're already seeing this, the agents replacing all of the work. But what is, I definitely believe is going to happen is you're going to have more jobs because AI creates so much content, so much stuff that you need people to manage all of the AI that it can create so much at a so much bigger scale now. So you're going to need new jobs, is what I'm saying, to manage all the AI. So it's coming. Let me go ahead and move this forward. We can read that later. The market for agents is just right here at the bottom of the exponential curve. You're going to see this curve, and it might even be higher, but this is exponential starting this year, going way up, 139 billion. This is a combination of both commercial and government. Government's a tiny part, commercial's a bigger part. I think that purple illustrates that. But anyway, some of my favorite models and some of the big things you hear about are ChatGPT, of course, Grok, Elon's Grok, right? Claude, Gemini, and Llama. So I typically will open up all of these too and use them throughout the day. But you might find ChatGPT. What I like to do also is stop and pause and ask questions, because if you want me to deep dive into something on the screen, like I just want to be conscious of getting to the agent's presentation for you. But if you want me to deep dive into something like, oh, someone's interested, how does Claude AI do something? I could give you, pick one of these and do like a little quick, if you want me to show you some tools, something new about one of these tools, that might be useful. And do I have a show of hands? I like to understand how much y'all know the tools. Would you like me to like deep dive a little bit into something like Claude or anything? Are y'all comfortable or what? I'll show you, what I'll do is let me show you, I'll give you about a 30-second, I think something new that you may have not ever done in Claude, and hopefully my screen won't go crazy either. Let me see if I can do this. Maybe this is what's, I'll see if I can just move it over. Oh, okay, that works good, okay. So how many people have used Claude? This is by Anthropic. Okay, we have most of the, how many of you have used projects? Ooh, okay, got something new to show you. See, I knew I would I knew I would get you with something.
I use me up.
Okay, projects are like, if you heard the term RAG, retrieval augmented generation, that lets an LLM use your local content, or in the enterprise world, enterprise content. It's connected to databases, and then the enterprises can use a chatbot and then talk to their data locally. Well, you can do that too, just with the free, or not with the Claude. Now, I pay $20 a month for this, so I don't know if maybe you don't have access because if you don't pay for the pro version. But anyway, when you do pay for the pro version, you get projects over here on the left side, and it lets you store your information by clicking on a particular project. First, you create it. So you'll do new project, and you'll name your project, and you'll put stuff in it. You can tell it specifically, like when I did the Frederick meetup one you see there, I always create slides with SVG format. That's a vector format, and I can cut and paste in my PowerPoint. So this is the system prompt, basically, when you set up this project, and you can put stuff in and do that. So like if I pick my Frederick meetup, you can come back over here and you can edit your details of your project. Looks like I didn't put anything in there at all. But what I did is added documents to it. So like my presentations are in here, and maybe help me generate new information from the slide that I created, right? I'll go into Google Docs, save it as a PDF, and then upload it into the project of Claude, right? And then when I do that, I can chat about my slide deck, because it's, once I click the project, I can now chat about it. Let's see if that actually comes up with the right content. It might. Usually I don't have to tell it.
Are projects available in the free plan?
Is it say what? I don't know. You need to check it yourself. Maybe someone online can check it now. It is coming up with, I didn't say don't create it. It's creating an engagement one.
A new one.
It's creating a new one. I needed to say pull from thing and don't create a new one, but it's taking information from the project and creating an HTML version. And I also needed to tell it create specifically say SVG, because I didn't put it into the project description. So you kind of need to get habit of using these tools a certain way. And ChatGPT has a project tool called GEMS, and most of the other tools all have a project capability. There's Cohere, which wasn't on my list, and Perplexity, I think you have to pay also for a project. I'd have to look at it again, but anyway, let me go on to back to the presentation, and see if there's, just let me ask for a set of questions or hands right now to see if there's any questions at this point. Yes?
I have a quick question. You've got several models out there.
Yep.
How do you specifically choose which model you want to use?
How does YouTube...
How do you choose?
How do I choose which model?
Which model
So
to use.
I'm glad you asked that question because there's thousands of models and there's continue to be models. And this is a great question to introduce the agents and what we want to talk about. There is, large language models, right? There's small language models. There is large reasoning models. There's large action models. There's large world models. So there's a model for every device and every platform and everything. The models, right, are trained on gobs of data, and the data defines AI. So remember that, repeat that, data defines AI. It's all about the data, right? It's not really about the AI in the end. It's about the data. So the data is but the data also represents instructions. So if you're going to make the early Chat GPT, didn't really elaborate when we were on the other side, but the early Chat GPT, you asked it questions and it answered it. It didn't. If you asked it what was how many letters were in strawberry, it's going to give you the wrong number of letters, right? There's no reasoning steps. It doesn't think. It's called one shot. You do a one shot prompt, and there's a great prompt engineering website that I do have referenced in my slides that will start from GenAI, prompt engineering, introduction to agents, and I think I was going to put a slide from it in here, but not sure if I got it in there. But my point being in that you asked me how I pick an LLM. That's why when I start, I lay out my stuff because I don't have a paid account to ChatGPT, right? So but I do for Gemini, Google, and I do for Claude. If I need to write a research paper, right, I might actually go to Manus and use the free trial because I don't have a pay account for that either. But I'll do what I can and use Claude maybe, and it will give me it has deep research on Claude. You go down to the model, and let me try to answer your question first. So if I'm going to need SVG, Claude creates great SVG diagrams for my slides. I can save them and then I can import them into PowerPoints as a graphic and edit them. It's great, but it doesn't work all the time. It's kind of broken half the time. So you have to tell Claude to make a simple SVG. So it doesn't do it perfect. So anyway, but when you go to Google Gemini, it won't create SVGs. It will create just PNGs or pictures. So now, if I'm going to write an agentic application, right? I need an LLM that is an instruct LLM that has been trained on instructions, right? To follow instructions, or I may need one to do chain of thought reasoning rather than just answer the first thing that it comes into mind to it, right? If I'm going to load it onto my NVIDIA Jetson that only has 8 gigabytes, right? I can use the web and use these models, but I can't use a small. I need to pick a certain small LLM that I'm going to use for the edge device application that I need, right? So if I'm building my Spot dog robot to make it follow instructions, right, and I'm working on a Jetson NVIDIA, I only have 8 gigabytes of GPU RAM. So I've got hardware considerations to look at if I'm going to use devices and put this in the real world, right? So I use tools such as Olama, which is a very easy to use inferencing engine, and it takes the place of all the servers in the cloud that Gemini, Google, and ChatGPT and Microsoft use and everything, right? It's your own LLM inferencing server called Olama. You can also, as a Python developer, use LM Studio. If you're lucky enough to have Silicon Mac, I have older Mac here, but your Silicon Mac, you can run pretty much a lot of models depending on the amount of memory you have on your, say, MacBook locally, or if you're also lucky enough to have a Windows computer with a GPU, it's designated by the number, how much GPU RAM you have on your Windows computer. LLMs, right, that are downloadable are also quantizable. They can be compressed. They basically remove information from the LLM, and it can be used in your memory. LLM is just a series of weights, right? It's just a series of weights, and you could take every other third one out of it in some cases and use a compressed or quantitized version of the LLM on a small device. And you don't need Shakespeare, you don't need it to know everything from the internet, right? You just need it to run your agent, do a travel agent, that kind of thing. So it needs to know some stuff, but not every single thing. All right, let me move on a bit. Does that help?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, I talked a little bit about this. We didn't mention BERT. Some of the historical things that we went from rules-based, then to transformers. ChatGPT didn't invent the transformers. Is a form of neural networks that started this revolution, but it wasn't the only thing. What it did. Let me take you through another aspect of this first. And come back to that. We started with rules-based ELIZA, where Professor Joseph Weizenbaum from MIT wrote, I think it was an IBM machine, mainframe computer. He wrote the psychotherapist on. He gave it to his secretary, and the secretary, after using it a little while, said, "Can you go away, leave the room?" Because she got so enthralled with using it as like a personal friend. She wanted to use it as a therapist without Joseph involved. And so she said, "Go away, I want to use this for a while." And actually, one of the most interesting things is, I just read last month that they did a top use cases of the GenAI use cases. Like, you look at, like, people were using ChatGPT for summarizing your text, right? Or creating a travel agenda, right? No. Once Gemini and some of the new tools now have better voice mode, now the top use case is using it as a friend, a psychotherapist. Your question?
Yeah, well, that's exactly what I saw, that it's becoming a really big trend in younger people mostly.
Right. Yeah. You've noticed it somehow?
I saw a write-up from another country where it's ran as fairly big news. So I'm not surprised to hear that it's trending in a lot of places.
Okay. Yeah. So I used something called the Lisp LISP programming back in college when I was taking electrical engineering. That's where I started my AI with the Lisp programming language, and this was kind of a form of rules. We use something called dialogue today, and I actually am going to show you something that I use today for AI autonomy that actually provides grounding for your LLM. All right, so some of the makeup of an LLM that makes it better and stronger is things like rules and instructions that are pre-trained, that are trained on top of the original foundation model. Let's move on. We came from machine learning, right? Machine learning was all about recognizing a pattern in the data. Is it yes or is it no? Is it class 0 or class 1, right? But machine learning is broken up into a whole range of things. We've got supervised machine learning and unsupervised. Supervised is like where you have a teacher, where you have labeled data, and the teacher is instructing you. This data is all about this class of, this is a 0. These are zeros, and these are dogs, and these are cats, right? So we have supervised. We have unsupervised data. This is a cluster of data. It's like a doctor who does a patient, have a bunch of diabetes patients, right? And that's a cluster of patients, right? So that's would be where you're using unsupervised type of models to understand that type of data. Reinforcement learning, that's where you see the robots making all kind of mistakes for 2 hours or for 3 days until they figure out what to pick up, right? That's crazy trained by error, right? And you have specialties of that. And then we have neural networks, right? So these are layers and layers of bits and weights that store patterns of the data that you're dumping into the layer, and then you're trying to use basically understanding those layers by moving backwards through the weights of data, through the layers. It's called backpropagation by Gregory Hinton's kind of worked out that, right? And so it's just memorizing, like, the ear, how many ears does a cat have versus a dog? It's just memorizing patterns, right? And we see that, and so neural networks is what the LLM is made of. We just have different tools surrounding the neural network for LLMs. Let me move on. You could make them better, make these models better with ensembles, mixes of them, right? CNN, the convolutional network started, the MINTS data set started it all, where this, so the ability to take these scribbled numbers and recognize them 99% of the time was the breakthrough, right? That's what set this off. 99% of the time they could recognize these digits, right? And so convolutional networks is where it took off. And then in 2017, a bunch of Google researchers came up with the transformer defined, added the capability to the transformer called attention is all you need, where now what you can do is you can look at sentences and you can determine where the most important word in the sentence is, and put focus on that sentence, and spit one word out at a time in a probability context. What exactly are LLMs? Well, it generates a human text, right? It is a neural network. It has a lot of parameters, and mainly though, this self-attention is the key to the LLM. It generates text, right, by what's called an autoregressive mode, right? It uses tokens, not really, doesn't use alphabets. It uses tokens, which is just a numeric reference of a piece of a word. Could be a word if the word's small, but it could be a single long word, could take up 3 tokens, right? So what it does is puts all of the tokens that it thinks that your query is referring to in this attention matrix and running it through a probability context and coming out with the most likely probable token from what your prompt put into it. And then it does that one at a time over and over till it assembles your the entire output of what it's trying to concoct, right? So that's fundamentally how generative AI works for text models. The ChatGPT, November 2019. But there was these bidirectional encoding models that was prior to the transformer and the ChatGPT. It was first the transformer is what is the heart of the LLMs. It's called transformer because originally it was designed to encode and decode, like to convert from one language to another, right? It didn't do any self-attention. It did not recognize the most important words in the sentence. It was for encoding and decoding. So what happened was the Google paper came out with attention is all you need. That was really all about how to use a dot product, a layered self-attention matrix inside of a transformer, and understand the top words that were being that needed to be produced on the from. You decode what you put in, the tokens, and you go through this attention matrix and get them out. All right, let's move on a bit. So the GPT progressed all the way from the basic transformer all the way to beyond GPT-4. You'll see me using Windsurf. I use GPT 4.1, and then you'll be hearing about GPT 4.5, which I think is already on ChatGPT, right? And then maybe 5. They were calling that, they were going to call 5 AGI, super AGI, but they backed off of that. There is no such thing, right? I tell you right now, if you ask me if there is general intelligence, AGI, that's not real, right? We could have a whole hour discussion on that, but don't believe everything you hear in the news, right, or in the marketing. But there's so much power behind it, right, that you don't. Anyway, I'm going to move on. So this kind of answers more of the question back about how do I pick LLMs, right? Every one of these bubbles probably has 50 LLMs behind it because this is different types of data. that, or tools that you have put into the neural network, right? So on the left we have very basic, just put the Wikipedia in there and you can search on the Wikipedia. On the right we have tools, right? We start teaching it about how to do instructions, or we in the middle we add symbolic references. That's why I mentioned the symbolic, like the Lisp and the ELIZA, and what I'll mention to you is Python Scala you might be interested in. I have a slide on that. But you augment the LLM and then train it with those models built in, or you as a programmer add those tools to the LLM or to your application, and you're augmenting the LLM. So we're going to talk about the augmented LLM, and that's a term I didn't invent, that came from Anthropic. So, but the LLMs do have a lot of challenges, right? You hear all about the hallucinations. Try to see, go into your chatbot and ask it to count the letters in strawberry. The newer models now do that, but like a year ago, it didn't count the letters in strawberry, right? How many have done that recently? Anybody? No? Did you not know that? Did y'all try? Has anybody used the Google Gemini or ChatGPT for either schoolwork, homework, or training? How many have done that?
For work.
Work? Have you used it to recognize when you have slides from an instructor? Have you tried seeing if it will recognize slides from an instructor? Like Gemini does that. That's what my biggest use was trying to understand my MIT instructor slides. But then if you try to do math, how many people have had success with it? Have you tried to do math homework? Gemini worked fairly good, but I would triple check everything. That's why I open up many different, as another way that helps me sort of ground what I'm doing. See if I put the same, use the same requests from multiple LLMs or multiple chatbots. If they all come with similar answers, I know they're correct, right? If I'm doing a complicated math problem, I will use Google first, Gemini first in the highest pro mode, but then maybe put it in and check the steps if it doesn't do it for me. A year ago, it didn't do so much checking. Today, it does what's called chain of thought, right? And this is what you want when you go into agentic programming. You want to get the model to do a chain of thought thinking process. Question?
I just tried Grok, and it said the word strawberry has 12 letters.
Oh no! Yes, Grok. And that's the free version of Grok, I'm assuming. Yeah. So try that in Claude. Try it in ChatGPT. Right.
I think it's right.
Right.
We'll see.
Good. So
People, how many?
now, I try this also. Like, create a project. Just do a very simple thing. Create a project in. I don't know if you can create it in Grok, but create it in either ChatGPT with a gem or Claude with a project, and put like the word strawberry in a text file, and then see if it will count the words in the strawberry. Or like maybe you might have to tell it in the text file, a strawberry has so many R's, and what are the 2 R's or whatever. You might have to tell it the number and then see. Yes, in the back.
Yeah, I feel like when you just ask it in a sentence, it might give you the wrong answer. But if you frame it like, write me a program that using a string, here's the string strawberries, it counts the number.
Right.
You can just write you the program, run it, and then tell you.
So this is a very important question, actually, because when you're programming with an LLM, you're using both the system prompting capability as well as the user prompting capability. You're providing with the system prompt a set of grounded instructions. Always try to think through, like, have your system prompt might say, think through the steps before you give an answer, or
it's
produce.
also not being aware of the two processes is what eats up your tokens.
Oh, it also eats up your tokens too. So again, LLMs are all about the tokens, and we'll talk about that. But again, yet another reinforcement of your question about LLMs, right? Just looking at the popular ones and some of the couple new ones we didn't yet talk about, right? OpenAI, ChatGPT, right? Hopefully everybody knows that, but you've got strength for vision, audio, and APIs. The Open API developer page, I've got a link to in here also, or right there. Claude, right? They were one of the first ones to have a million contexts. No, Gemini was, sorry. They came out with Claude 3 and now it's Claude 4 if you get the Pro version. But the context window was 200K with just the Claude 3. It was much bigger than ChatGPT, or the GPO models were much smaller. And if you're going to dump an entire textbook, like I've done, into a model, you need a big context window. The amount of stuff that you can dump into, that's the short-term memory we're going to talk about, right? That your agent can look at, that's in the model, in the context snapshot of the model. That's memory, short-term memory. So that's your context window, right? And these other models have different features, right? And also you've got governmental and policy and everything else to look at, right? Like open source, like you can use the meta models if you're doing commercial, but you may not be able to use other models, might be restrictive. I don't think Cohere you can, I don't have to look at it, but some models you can't just use like in your commercial application for business, right? You have to have the legal for it. And you might also care about whether it was coming from China, like DeepSeek, right? How many people are familiar with DeepSeek, right? Everybody, okay, everybody's heard about DeepSeek. Well, if you asked it about, if you tried to tell it something bad about the Chinese government, right, it might,
Right.
Say, oh, we can't answer that.
About Tiananmen
Right,
Square.
exactly. So there's these political, there's these sort of ramifications that guardrails is what we call them, good or bad, that they put into the model or didn't put into the model. Every LLM has guardrails because it was all trained by different people, different set of data. All right. Let me go ahead and move on faster. I'm going to move on. This was really there for questions. Generated by Plus AI, all right. Tokens, we kind of mentioned this, but just remember that, the word character could be broken down into 3 or 4 different numerical tokens. Context length, I mentioned already, the number of stuff you can put in. Fundamentally, this is what LLM looks like. You put in the query, you go through layers of the neural network, you have a dot product, query weight attention matrix, which determines the probability distribution and pulls a word out from the top tokens that's coming out from the matrix, and it's trained over and over. This self-attention matrix, one sentence is trained over and over in different, swapping the words out in all these ways for one given sentence, just one sentence in the Wikipedia, right? And it could be how many seconds of processing just for one sentence, every single word, so that it determines what is the most important word in that sentence. And it's got to do that for a billion things on the internet, right? So that's why it took a year and billions of dollars to train the OpenAI GP4 model, right? It's training all day long for actually 1 year, all that data. And anyway, so you come out. So just think of an LLM as throwing a bunch of balls in the bucket. You're just trying to pick from the balls in the bucket, and it's getting out. But it's a little bit smarter, and that it's been trained with the self-attention to know which ball it thinks you might want first from the ball that you're currently, like red. I want a red ball, but maybe some are pink. And so it's picking the best one that's closer to red. So it won't give you the answer to 1 + 1 because that's not what it's doing. It's not adding. It's just picking a probability distribution, right? So what we do in agents is we instruct it to make it smarter. We ground it. All right. I'm gonna go past. I talked a lot about this. There's actually a notebook that we can take a whole meetup on and walk through the architecture of a transformer in this Python notebook, or you can go to the GitHub NLP with transformers and look at the model. Now I have a whole nother slide deck. Before I get into that, I'm gonna take a break and then take a 1 minute break and say, think of questions. Do you have any questions right now? I'm gonna switch decks and questions.
Just one, Glenn, are you gonna, will we have access to these slides?
Yes, probably gonna clean them up and then work with Matt and Francisco, and we will.
Make sure they get published
Thank you.
somewhere. They might be coming.
Good stuff.
Okay, so we're going to talk about how we're going to go. This is going to be a little bit more technical. That was meant to be, the GenAI was meant to try to cover all the bases with everybody who had little pieces here and there of generative AI, right? I have gotten a little deeper with the use of AI, helping to build an AI autonomy stack. I was building a situational awareness kind of autonomy stack for the battlefield, where you have a world state coming in from sensors like tank cameras and weaponry and cameras, and we put that into a knowledge graph, right? And a knowledge graph stores relational information, like once you take a picture of something and you recognize that's a tank, right? Or then you take a picture of a person and you recognize they have a gun. Now you start relating. Now you need to start relating things together. Like this person has a gun and it's a person and it might be a threat. So you need to assign probabilities to things in the scene. We call this a world model. And we can't just put this model in an SQL database and retrieve it like we do an LLM RAG, because they don't have any, the information doesn't have any relationship to one another. So anyway, we use like a graph network, and that helps ground these type of networks, and I think I have more information on that. So I'll talk about that here in a minute. But let's go ahead and kind of talk about, I mentioned knowledge bases, the graph database. So what are agents, right? They ideally they are helping you. They are the definition is really them to go off and do something with that you instructed it to do without really your help all the way, but they may come back and ask for more help, and then you give them more information and go back and they finish and do it. How do they do that? They do it via tools. And how do they know the context of what they need to do? They use memory. Memory can be the context length that we talked about dumping into the LLM, or it can be a database, right? But you can also use third-party tools to augment the LLM, and we'll talk about the augmented LLM. So the LLMs and the Agentic framework, right?
Alert from low battery.
Oh, let me.
I'm working on it.
I have a thing if we need it. Okay. Let me see. I'll just get it. All right. So we went from no framework on the left, rule-based systems originally also. Then we added, one of the biggest things was LangChain, where Harrison Chase open sourced a framework called LangChain. I recommend you learn LangChain. Every AI app, every developer typically might start with LangChain. The demos that I have are based on LangChain, right? LangChain.com. So it's easy to get and find the URL, but there's also a whole developer website on there for that. Anyway, there's many other frameworks. I didn't properly put a slide. I didn't get to put a slide in here. I can show you some stuff, but for the sake of time, let me move on. There's another innovative frameworks came out in 2023, Microsoft's AutoGPT. Then there was Crew AI. Those attempt to be assistants for like a crew of AI agents that go off and do work. And then okay. So then we had more tools like LangGraph. The LangChain organization then released LangGraph, right? It's a form of helping you visualize the relationships of the agents that are happening. So that's the next thing you want to learn is it not charging? Oh, you might need my battery. Is that a...
This is yours right here.
It is mine for my bag, or the one I had over there? Oh, okay. Let me try the other side.
And the fan's coming on, so going low power.
Sorry, everybody. Let me see if this works. If it dies, then we're in trouble. I have 7%. I don't see it charging though.
Yeah. The other one
Alert
was
from low
charging
battery.
for a moment, but-
You know what's wrong?
No, I don't.
Maybe plug it in over here. See if that works.
Try a different. No,
Lynn, I got a similar machine, if you want to switch to it.
maybe
Oh.
that plug's not
Oh.
powerful.
You mean a whole new laptop? No, that would be a problem. That might be working. I think I see a little. I did. No, apparently
There's
it's,
not a good power supply here.
do you have another one?
Is there a slot behind you?
No, I meant another white thing.
No, this one was the one, I assume it's yours.
Yes, it was over there, but I might need a backup.
Just right there.
Okay, the thing's on. Then it went off. That's not good. Anybody have a MacBook white adapter? I could see if theirs works better. Because if I run out of power, I have a problem.
Yeah.
I was going to mention Anthropic Cookbook next.
Alert from low battery.
You have a little one? It might
This
work.
is a 10.3.
It might. I don't know if it'll work or not. Let me see if this is. Did I bring a spare one? No, I didn't. But I don't think it's the power. I think it's the adapter itself. No one has a big white. Let's just see what happens. No, it's not doing it. Is there
Alert from low
a
battery.
Are you on? Is it just
what?
This is the plug that was working, wasn't it?
It's not the. It's. I don't believe it's the plug. It's the white. It's my white adapter. I think. I may have grabbed the one that's not good. Is it? It's not plugged into the white. Where's the white adapter at?
We could try, I have an adapter, mine should have plenty of charge, my adapter works.
Yours is a different kind of. Oh, I guess if we have to, maybe I could access my Google or
Oh,
something.
you're right, mine's the
Yeah.
other type.
I got 6% left. I didn't anticipate running out of that. I didn't.
Is it just a USB-C that's coming out of the white thing?
Yeah.
We'll try another cable.
Oh, maybe a Windows one might work too.
Are you presenting through Google?
What?
You're presenting through Google?
Yeah.
Do you want to share it?
I might have to if I. Let's try this one thing and then I might have to switch or something.
There we are.
I see a power. I see a little cord. Yeah, that might last. Okay, we're good for now.
Better, it's like 180 watt power break.
Oh, okay, good. We'll know that for next time. So what I'm going to try to do, I'm just try to flip through what time is it looking? 8:19. Okay, I'm going to try to flip through some things, get through most important concepts. I like to talk, so I realized I always put these presentations with a wealth of content, so don't worry, just plan on coming back and I'll do it again and again, right? We won't go through everything, but since I know a lot of the faces are usually regular here, so if I do this 2 or 3 times, we won't present everything, we'll do a little more focused one and cover the content that we didn't necessarily get to. But you'll have plenty of questions when you come back because you'll get the research, the Anthropic Cookbook, and you'll get the research, the text guides. But what you do is you go to the platform OpenAI and you can literally click on this link here, read and generate text, and it will give you a code that you can just paste into your cursor or your windsurf or your visual code and tell, if I'm going to show you windsurf, you can just paste it into your windsurf and in 30 seconds you can tell it, set up my poetry environment or set up my Python environment for me and run this code. And it will do it all for you too. So we'll hopefully have time for me to demo that. There's a number of terms which you need to learn. If you haven't heard of them, or you'll start to understand familiarity when you start reading, get on LinkedIn and connect with all the researchers, connect with the data scientists. All day long I'm on LinkedIn because the feed of the news about the LLM is coming all day long, right? There are hundreds of LLMs coming out every week. You'll know by how to use them by understanding the new ones that are being released, why the researchers are working on aspects of the large reasoning models. Just the other day, Apple just released the news that large reasoning models don't reason. How many of you have heard that news? Couple of you, half of the room. Okay, yeah. So this is true. I mean, large reasoning models may not truly be reasoning, right? Because they're trained on all these instructions. They're trained on thousands of set of instructions, so it remembers patterns of all of the steps that it's given in the training data, right? And it's assuming reasoning from the patterns, in the reasoning patterns that it's developing, right? So yes, they truly may not be reasoning. They can't think real time. And as Jan LeCun, the chief scientist at Meta, says, language models are never going to be as smart, right, as the world, right? A language model is just English language. It's not teaching you the world that you learn from a baby, right? You're learning how to interact with the world as things change. A reasoning model doesn't know physics. If a ball is coming down a slide, it doesn't know if the ball is rolling on the slide or if the ball is rolling above the slide. It can't reason if you ask it, well, is that ball gonna go left when it comes to the bottom? I don't know, maybe some wind will hit it. It can't reason, it doesn't know the real physical model of the world, right? So it's just, if it's been trained on that, it's only been trained on what the instructions have told it about the physics of the world, right? But that could be limited. It could maybe not be trained on everything. Anyway, I kind of deviated into Glenn's little discussion there, but swarm, state, agent, environment, action is terms that you want to react. I've got a slide on react. All right. So how do we make these LLMs smarter? We have all of these techniques. I mentioned knowledge graphs, very important concept. Advanced reasoning, we have these patterns, chain of thought, tree of thought, react and reasoning is what I just mentioned, right? Agentic features that will dynamically update. RAG, retrieval augmented generation, where that's your content, that's your enterprise content. RAG can be as simple as the projects that I mentioned in Claude. You're dumping your own PDF into Claude or a PowerPoint in there, that's a RAG. You can use Google Notebook, LLM, Google Notebook LM. We use it a lot. Use it for marketing information, like use it to create documentation, to summarize stuff. It does things a lot differently than the other tools might do it. It has storage and storage of the way that it manages your chats may be different than Claude or Google and so on. So you might like that kind of tool for one app, for one use case, right? Or if you might want to use things locally, you might want to use anything LLM, which is a downloadable. I never tried it on Windows, but I know it's for Mac. Anything LLM, and it's your own RAG application right on your laptop. If you're a Python developer, you can use LM Studio right on your MacBook and on your Windows GPU computer, and you can download LLMs in it. It opens up a chat window, and you as a developer can go in and chat like a ChatGPT with it, or you can. I can't demo it on this laptop. This is an Intel, but anyway. So reinforcement learning is also used to help. Once the reinforcement learning model has been trained, that is a living, breathing trained model that can act to augment an LLM with the training data, with the world model that it learned from all the training data. So that augments an LLM also. And then the memory systems will mention that. Okay, so let me move on. What are an agent framework? So that's it. You have the intelligence layer, the tools, the collaboration, and you need to execute. I'll mention how many of you have started reading all about model context protocol? Okay, at most of the room, great. I'm not going to go into it today other than this one slide because you'll be here the rest of the night. But I have a whole presentation on this is my favorite. All right, if you're going to build agents after you learn the basics, you need to move over to Model Context Protocol, MCP. If you never heard of that, or if you want to know more, just type Model Context Protocol into YouTube, and you'll have YouTube to listen to for the rest of the year. This is very important. Model Context Protocol, you'll find that what we were doing before, even without AI, right? Matt, so we're aware of this. Every time you write a web app, whether it be Django, am I saying that right? Or other REST API, right? You're writing a custom tool to access the weather on your website, right? Or the REST API, you're writing for whatever thing you're gonna access with REST 2.0 is a custom written REST API. So dump all that. Let's do a common, act like the USB port of APIs, right? And enter model context protocol. So that's going to unify that and create servers and clients that you talk to the client, and then a JSON 2.0 standard structured protocol talks between the client and the server. And you can connect, you can either download, all of the vendors are now producing an MCP server you can just download and use. You don't have to write custom code for it. You just use one standard client that talks to it. You can plug them into Claude, plug them into your Anthropic Claude, plug them into OpenAI, right? Every single cloud vendor has now supported MCP protocol. It's the way to build standard-based agentic applications. Then you've got the Google Agent A to A. That's another purpose, but it's also a standard. Agents that talk to agents. Model Context Protocol is meant to standardize your interface. Google's A to Agent protocol is meant to standardize the way agents to talk to each other. For simplicity, just work with one framework at a time, unless you have a reason. So we have agents that go from a very simple one-shot prompting all the way to a very degrees of autonomy. They can be smarter. With all of the steps that you put in, you have a chain or a workflow rather in the middle there of fixed steps that the LLM can walk through. Use the calculator tool and go get the information by using the calculator tool and get the answer, right? Or what if I then need to use a what's called a React framework, thought, action, think, and I put that in the middle so that I can go iteratively lose a cyclic loop to plan that out before I get the answer. Then I can let that agent may be more autonomous and go off and do stuff. How does we kind of entered this already. We said that really there's just a set of probability. It's just spitting out the token probability of the answers one after another. They have no memory normally. Now mention the Claude and the 1 million tokens that the Gemini 1.5 Pro has, right? If you're not aware of that, you can dump an entire textbook basically into Gemini Pro and ask for stuff. But a standard like LLM, you might download a small LLM model, doesn't have any memory. For your agent, it's not going to remember from one question to the next. But your knowledge base, your knowledge graph, your symbolic reasoning engine, your RAG, these other tools that I put on the screen all provide context for your memory. They may not be real-time memory, or you add memory to it in the terms short-term or long-term memory. You get a bunch of flies. Okay. I put this slide in here to go ahead and do the basic chatbot demo. I wanted to check our time. Let me see what else I have. Let me flip through and then I'll come back. I wanted to stop and do a demo. Make sure we have time to do that. I'm going to flip through a few more slides. Do you have any questions at this point? Or do you want me to go right into that demo, or do you want me to flip through a few more slides, because I have a number of important slides that's going to go into agentic workflow that developers are going to be excited to see. So how do you want me to proceed?
Keep going and come back.
Keep go. Okay, I thought you'd say that. So the augmented LLM consists of taking an LLM and augmenting it by adding tools such as a calculator, or adding a memory, which can be short-term or long-term memory to it. The augmented LLM, right, has this interaction with the environment or sensors. The environment can be the user at the chatbot level. The actuators, whether it's a robot or whether it's a chatbot, could be the web search that it does as an agent, right? And then, we're going to talk about planning and reasoning. So how do you do some of the planning and reasoning? You add chain of thought, make it think through the steps. How do you add tools? You add this function tool into it. Are you going to do it in a standardized way? Then choose MCP. If you're not, you might be writing your own tool interface for every tool that you try to access. If you want to use memory, we're going to talk about that here next. Retrieval at the bottom there, maybe that's your RAG, your data set, your retrieval augmented generation RAG tool, RAG capability, right? Fundamentally, this is what an agent is what the definition of an agent. Got some action, getting some feedback. Now, but I want to add workflows to those. I stop for developers, but this is where I put another stop for a calculator demo. I may go ahead and proceed further because you'll say that, but I keep mentioning React. This is part of adding the planning and reasoning. This is one fundamental way of adding a reasoning agent to one of your agents. I used it in a like we as Booz Allen from the federal government, we provide a bunch of accelerator generative AI tools to help the government build apps, help us build apps for the government really fast. And one of the tools that I used in there was a React agent that I needed to put documents into the RAG and go and search through the document before it just answered back. And I used a React agent by these actions here. The toolbox was a series of custom prompts that I used to tell it, oh, I want to talk about, I want to prompt it for certain, military terminology. And that's kind of the set of topics that I put into the tool. Its toolbox was a set of topics. And if it didn't find that topic, it kept looping until it found something related to that topic. And so eventually it made it smarter about the answer because it was focused on the topics that I gave it until it found those paragraphs. Again, there's a lot of documentation. Yes, question?
Was this an agentic framework that you implemented?
Yes, so definitely agentic because React is, anytime, the definition of an agent is that cycle, right? So this, anytime I put augmented LLM together, it's an agent.
And did you,
in my definition,
did you write like the agent framework like yourself? Because I know you could do that as well. Or did you use like Microsoft AutoGen or some other kind of?
No tool. I actually have a demo for you on the React agent. It just uses a loop. I have a code. What we'll do is we're going to have. I have actually more demos than we'll have time to run through today, and when the screen a little small. But I have like 5 demos I ran through with Francisco the other day. And I put all of them on both my GitHub and on Matt's Frederick Meetup GitHub, and you'll be able to download it. But I wanted to first definitely give you demos that didn't rely on the AutoGen and those frameworks because you need as a developer to just understand the fundamental developing it with Python first. What makes it different, right, than using the framework? It's really just using function calling and then an LLM, but you're using maybe language. So the only framework that I'm relying on is like LangGraph that I mentioned in the beginning. You need that because it gives you, that's a good point. Let me show you the code here. This one doesn't show you. I'm gonna have to open up my IDE. But since I'm on this code already, this is calling the API from OpenAI with a key and then doing the chat completions. That's part of the completion from OpenAI to take the model and put the message into the prompt, right, and then give you the response. But how do I do an agent? Well, LangGraph has a LangGraph agent package. So that's how I added agent to this chatbot. Just use LangGraph and use their agent module. How do I add memory to this? I use LangGraph.memory. I add the LangGraph memory capability to it. So these frameworks all have this back-end support for this, whether it's LangGraph is 100,000 GitHub stars is the biggest and most used LangGraph framework. Llama Index is the 4th most used. AutoGen from Microsoft is up above Llama Index. But these tools are all provide that ability to give you augmented LLM capability right in the package. It makes it very simple to program. Okay, so tools. Let me just look what I have here. Go a little fast. A function calling, your question about how do I make this, I just create a function that will pass a structured JSON string into the tool and then query the LLM with that structured information. We can do weather fetching the same way with the structured information set up into the tool and get the temperature out. It's focusing what the LLM needs to pick and send you out. This was set up for a demo of the memory. So I think it's, let me go a little bit for some of these slides, and I'll go a little bit fast, and then come to the demos. You have short-term memory, long-term memory. Short-term memory is usually associated with the context, or you could put things in a little Postgres database. Could be everything being typed in, all the prompts come in, maybe they go into a JSON string, just stick that into a little small Postgres database, then you have something to search back through. So yes, there's latency added to your LLM. So this is where enterprise tools come in, use Elasticsearch and cloud-based tools and everything to speed up all the components of your agentic application, because an agentic application is now not just an LLM RAG with a Postgres database that has what's called a vector store. It may have these little other databases for memory or a lot of long-term memory. Maybe it has to search a knowledge graph now for a longer-term memory. Maybe you keep adding to that knowledge graph as the world state keeps growing, right? So all of these different. Okay. So let me move on. We mentioned RAG. You're not familiar with a retrieval augmented generation. I put the query into my chatbot. I embed all the text that you're typing into numbers or tokens, and those are basically called embeddings, and they're called embeddings because they're put into what's called a vector database that has this column that is a numbered column that represents positional vector, that represents a vector of the rest of the columns in that row of data. So that way, if the right columns are all talking about a cat, then the positional information is going to be higher representing a cat on probability scale than a dog. So when I'm retrieving information about a cat, it's going to use that. It's going to see that positional semantically using a similarity matrix we call, for example, cosine similarity against that number, that embedded token. And it said, oh, you're looking for a cat, information about a cat, because the tokens, the numbers that you are talking about, cat, are close in numerical cosine similarity to the numbers in the embedding of the vector database. So I retrieve the relevant information from that database that way. Does that make sense? Is that a simple way of explaining LLM RAG to you? Everybody understand? It's a very foundational part. If anyone asks you, like, how do you make an LLM smart, or what's an LLM RAG? I think now you can answer, right? Because that's all it really is. Now, there's 1,000 ways you can do advanced RAG. Now, RAG, by the way, isn't the AI. RAG was around before the AI, right? But now that we added RAG to the LLMs, we've made it smart. But there's 1,000 ways to improve RAG, and it can get very hard. So one of the challenges, why maybe enterprises are struggling with AI is because this looks easy, but it can get very complicated and very hard to do it right? So I don't want to oversimplify it. It's not easy when you want it to be really good. And maybe it's why Apple has so much trouble making a new version of Siri. I know I'm on video. But their darn Siri is dumb enough now. Anything they put out has got to be better than the existing Siri, in my opinion, anyway. So they should be getting it out. This is not the slide. This is an AI-generated front end of workflow. So Claude did that. I just said, give me a slide of workflows, and it did that. Anyway, they look kind of relevant. Anyway, I have a demo. Another way of doing a tool, and again, this is just using LangChain, is you have little sub-action handlers. And one way this kind of tool can be used is to create like a summary document. You want to go do a summary about one topic and then do it again about another part of the topic, and then finally get down to the end and you assemble it all. LangGraph agents are another way to do it. I think it's about time for a demo. Oh, I have the work. Let me mention the workflows, and that might be helpful, and I'll go kind of fast. Questions at this point, though? No? Good. Okay. We have prompt chaining, and you'll find that these slides are from Anthropic. These pictures, just go to the cookbook that I put in my earlier slide, the Anthropic cookbook, on their blog. Look at the Anthropic blog, and Dave Ebelar is one of my favorite YouTube. If you want to take how to make an agent from someone on YouTube, go through Dave Ebelar, for example. And they'll walk through, usually through the Anthropic blog. They'll start out with this and go through these workflows and how to build the using LangChain and Python. None of the fancy frameworks yet. You need to learn the basics. All right, so you got prompt chaining. I have a LLM call. I have a gating function that says, all right, is it the end of the thing, or do I need to go call another LLM and ask for more? Then again, do I need to trigger another LLM? Or I can have routing, right? Now this is where you have maybe it might do multiple things at once, but you need some sort of optimizing. You might be waiting for one instead of when in the answer you have three things going on. You might be waiting for an answer from one of them if it takes too long, but maybe that's okay. Right? Reasoning is going to add latency to your application, but that's important. If you ever now are going to Claude or ChatGPT, and you'll see deep research at the bottom, right? You're no longer getting your prompt back immediately, but if it comes back with the right answer, I care about it going to think first, okay, my few seconds, rather than coming back immediately with the wrong answer. Parallelization, right? Send it off in a divided subblocks and parallelize it. The React framework is an example of this optimizer where I'm going back. The feedback is. I use this in a corrected RAG format. I'm currently working on a cybersecurity, adding AI to the well-known government EMAS application that you do cybersecurity certification on with computer systems, and I'm adding. I need to make sure it's correct because it's gonna deal with security controls of the application. So I'm building what's called a corrected RAG, right? I'm assigning a conditional probability to this answer, and then I set a threshold to the answer, and if it doesn't come back better than 80% of topics, or if the words say likely, the LLM can come back and say likely, and you don't want it to say likely, you want it to be sure of what the answers are. So tell it, no, you're not acceptable, go back and query the LLM again. And because it's just a probabilistic model, you're gonna get another answer out, right? And you're gonna maybe loop until it gives you the right answer, and you can check that probability, you can check that threshold until you get the right answer, and then get the answer out. That's how the agent model really works. So then you've got the orchestrator, and you can dynamically synthesize. So these are the frameworks that are the fundamental frameworks, and go to the Anthropic blog to start looking over those. So how do we add some planning to the models? So planning works where on the left you want to research a topic. All right, mixture of experts. I got to go to Google first, right? But is there relevant information there? No, maybe not enough. Oh, so go get some papers on archive, right? So go get those. And then, all right, then I got to summarize the results. So I need to plan out what I got to do first. You don't want to go summarize the results first. I got to go to the archive first, right, and get them. So this is the planning steps that you want to do before you finished. But now reasoning, right? So how do you reason? What is a large reasoning model? A large reasoning model does these steps by chain of thought, right? To figure out the number of R's in strawberry. Like all right, you have 10 apples, right? You've taken 2 away, and you have 8 left, right? And then you've eaten one, right? And get the final answer. I've tried this in the chatbots. They seem to work because they're doing reasoning. But if any of you click and do an older model, try this. Try these simple questions in some of the older models that you got at your access, and try to see if they answer correctly. This was generated by AI on the left. This is the React framework broken down. I think you'll be using this model, this React agent in a number of your tools, so that's why I think it's very important. What I used, I mentioned, go back to Lisp programming. What I used for a situational awareness rules-based engine is this midway between neural networks and statically generated rules, right? Like ELIZA and Lisp programming. We use something called Scallop. It's just simple, a Python Scallop, a Python package you can download, and a simple set of, you can use it two ways. A simple of relational syntax can help you relate, like if you need to figure out that if you ask are these two dots connected via these dashed lines or not. If you threw this into a model, lineal model, it probably might not come up with the right answer, but you program it with a combination of rules that go into a PyTorch neural network, again, with using the Scallop language in an advanced way. It will provide a grounded rules-based reasoning for your answer. And it's pretty and it comes out, actually can give you probability scores, how sure it is. So it runs as like an inferencing model. You load the rules, you load a bunch of facts, you build a model with what's called an ontology to begin with. I mentioned graph networks. An ontology is like a relational graph network that stores relationships. I'm a friend of Matt, Matt's a friend of Francisco. Who else is a friend of us, right? That's a relation or an ontology, and you grow that ontology and then run it through an inferencing read, and it will spit out an answer with a probability. To provide your agent with a bit of intelligence that's grounded. Okay, so time for demos. The fun part of the meetup, right? What time we got? How we doing, Matt?
Like 15 minutes, I guess.
Okay, so I'm going to give you, I already got the calculator demo up on the screen because I did it to test it earlier. I'm trying to show you what I'm loaded here. Let me see if I can get to my, I just don't recognize the thing that well because I have it closed. Oh, Matt, do I need to do something? Oh, there it is. So what I've got here is, show you a couple things. Got the calculator open. Oh, calculator demo. I did put it into a notebook, but I don't trust that I have it working, and the screen may not be big enough. So let me do this first. Let me run it, and then I'll go through the code. Make sure. Okay, I'm using Windsurf. Windsurf is really cool. I'm on a trial and it will expire in a couple days, but it's so great that it's like $15 a month for the basic developer use, that I'm probably gonna start paying the $15 a month, because I can literally tell it to, if my calculator, I can literally give it my calculator script, this, which is here, and it's not showing up on the screen. I don't know how to use this on this thing. Let me do the demo first. I can literally tell it, I can type, there's a chat panel over here on the right. Where's it at? Right here. I can literally say it, and you can use it to tell you how it works, tell you the components of the application, core components. You can tell it, set up my poetry environment, set up my virtual environment, set up Python BENB, and you can sit there and it will, or you can say, run my calculator agent. And then if it has trouble running your calculator agent, it will find out what's wrong, and tell you, do you want to accept this? You click accept. It will fix the problem with the calculator agent, and then run it. And then if there's another error, like a package is missing, it will say, oh, I found the package is missing. It will go get the package, put it into your Poetry virtual environment, continue running the calculator script until it runs another error, or it will run the app until it fixes it and gets it working. Francisco watched me do it last night on all 5 of my demos, and in about less than 30 minutes, I was able to get 5 scripts up and running that I had really, wasn't really working with every day, and needed my Poetry environment set up, needed the packages fixed, and all of this stuff. And Windsurf just did it all for me. And I needed to create graphs. You can tell it, give me a mermaid graph of this Agentic, of this script. It will give you the mermaid code, and then you can paste it into mermaid, which is programmable. And you can use that actually in LangGraph to build your agent from. So you can build code with the code by growing on one another, right? So you can say, anybody heard of Mermaid? Matt, you know Mermaid? Matt,
Yeah.
who else knows Mermaid? Everybody? A lot of people? Raise hands. No, Mermaid? Okay, well, you learned something really new. I recommend you learn Mermaid.
Graphing tool
It's great.
that uses
Yeah,
plain text.
Yeah, yeah.
So you can like store the graph as just a plain text file, and then there's a renderer that will actually
While that's running out, you see it producing mermaid code. You can go to mermaid.live and paste that right in and create a graph of your agent flow, the workflows that I showed you. So you can check the flow that you've written into your code by using Mermaid. Here, I can't see the code yet. Let me do the demo. I had to start it here. It took my enter. I might have to stop it. Okay, let me stop it, and I'm going to run calculator agent PY, and it is going to ask me for a prompt, and it's going to run an agent. I'm just going to say it, the basic, right? What is 3 and 5, right? And it's going to enter the agent chain and give me. Did it give me the answer?
Yes, say it is.
I didn't say what is, right? So right. So that would be a good thing that but if I do what is 3 plus 5, right? There we go. So it gives me a little bit better. So it's helping me with the way that I'm prompting it to give me right now. So if I do is 2 plus 5 equal 20. Now hopefully what is it going to do, right? Hopefully it's going to tell you you're wrong, right? So this agent is corrective, providing corrections to what I'm giving it. So this in itself is the very basic agent. You know a lot of stuff is calculating. Like this might be a core agent of anything you're doing, whether even travel agents, your travel agency agents, right? You're adding up pricing, right? You might want to make sure that you take a picture of the receipt. You got to go into a CNN, right? And then you get the sales receipt numbers out, recognized by a Mint network, right? And then you're getting a number out, right? And now you run it through your agent to make sure that number is what it adds up right. So that little illustration there, it meant to say that your agentic application may do a whole bunch of AI in addition to just a little agent, right? Okay, so anybody else want to see if you do other things in there? Let me move on. Let me try to get to the code. Hold on.
So you got a horde. I think what's happening is your terminal is taking over most of the space. So if you go hover a little bit before that interpreter line, you probably will get a horizontal resizer. There it is. There it was for a second. Go down a little tiny bit. Oh, there you passed
The
it.
little bar, right?
Go
That
above terminal. Above. Oh, there it is.
Yeah,
Right
okay, there it is. All right, there we go. I did not show you the basic chatbot, but okay, so here I am importing the OS. I'm using a .env file by using the .env load.env package. Typical thing you're going to want to put in every app you write. Whether you're using OpenAI API or any API, your database environment, there's an environment file that does that. I'll come back to that if I need to. Everybody familiar with the .env file? Yeah, okay. you've got the little structure here for prompting text. That's a standard Python typing package. You bring in you're bringing your LLM with the LangChain OpenAI. There's a LangChain Gemini, LangChain Claude, LangChain Cohere. This is just how you bring your LLM in. It's how you talk to the LLM. That's all you do. Your base tool. This is going to bring in the tools package from the LangChain to add that agentic capability, and you can go over here like you normally do. And tools are classes that an agent uses to interact with the world, right? So that's explaining pretty what it does. Your chat prompt template, right? So you can provide that flexible. You can now another thing you might add to this is Pydantic, which isn't on this, but everybody familiar with Pydantic? Pydantic 2.0 is the way that you basically are going to use with all your AI apps. It's a way of structuring your JSON, structuring your inputs from basically raw text into a model, and it helps easily. It's a Pythonic way of easily structuring your JSON data or your messaging data that comes into a function. It's not AI, but it's one of the most important functions of Python that you will need for your tools. Okay, so here we have a class that initializes the calculator tool with the name of the tool, the description of the tool. So the LLM is going to go, when it needs to understand, it needs a calculator, it actually is searching for the word calculator to know that, oh, I need a calculator tool. So you could have various types of agents that have different calculators. Just name them, instantiate them with the different description of what you want it to do. Explain that it's maybe a financial calculator, and you instantiate it with whatever financial rules that you need for that, or it's just a simple basic calculator, or just calculate. If it's a calculator, to do something specific, you get my point. You can instantiate it as a model in those certain way to make it look like whatever calculator you need it to look like, right? And then I just, in this case, just want it to simply return a string result and handle an exception. Right, so or if it doesn't find the tool, so on. So here, what does the tool? How do I instantiate the agent itself? That was the tool I instantiated. I need to instantiate the agent now. The agent uses the tool, right? So I instantiate the tool, create the tool or tools, or any version of the tool, and then now I need to instantiate the calculator agent. The calculator agent is an augmented LLM, right? So what do I need? I need to initialize it with the LangChain Chat API, Chat OpenAI function to call the LLM. So that's what the self.llm LLM is doing, and it's putting the parameters of the LLM, typical parameters of the LLM model, the model type, the temperature, and a number of other parameters. Temperature can go, and you can switch this on some of the, like ChatGPT used to be able to go select the temperature. It's how creative you want the answer to be. How creative you want it to pick that probability distribution on the LLM. How wide you want that to pick from that, from its guess, right? So you want to make that more creative, make that, a very high temperature. If you want it to be more strict, if it's a security application, your temperature might be 0.2 instead of, it's 0.1 on that. Because it's a calculator app, you actually want it to get the answer right. So I don't want it to be that creative on this tool, on this I don't want this agent to be that creative on a calculator app. So make this 0.1 or 0.2, right? So anyway, my key is in the environment file. Anyway, so this agent is instantiating a set of tools to go with it, and then I've got initialize it, right? It's a standard class, and I'm describing with it. I just want this agent to act on a one-shot capability. I want to give it one prompt and then go let it run and do its job. Call the tool once, do its job, and then if I have some corrective flow, if I have a workflow that wants to recheck it, that's where I just use a standard function call in Python to do it, and get response at end. And I just run get response. I mean, a very simple workflow here. I'm just like that very simple prompt chaining. I just send the prompt in, run the calculator tool, and get the answer out. This is not a React framework, right? So this makes sense? Runs and do that. So that's how the calculator app
Can you
works.
scroll a little bit for just
Yeah.
to see us the run implementation.
Yeah,
just
yeah, let me-
It's new, I missed it. Please jump by that.
Run the calculator agent, print it first, and then it just saying, while true, get the user input. Checking the user input for validation or not. That's that prompt chaining flow where the gate, it's either going to go do its work or it's going to exit, right? And then I'm looking for the response, and
Cool.
Yep. Move on. Calculator agent. Instantiates a calculator agent, which calls a tool and runs. So very simple, very basic. Let me go through some other things here. Hold on. I need to find my thing again. Okay. That's not it. How do I get to the?
It was the upper right corner. where
Oh,
you
do it
saw-
over there. Do it this one.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. Okay, so I'm going to close that. See, all I have is, I use poetry, I love that. The environment file, what I did first. Now, so I have the travel
Don't show
agent.
too much of that if you don't mind, Glenn.
What?
You won't have to edit the recording. That's your actual open API.
Oh, yeah, let me go ahead and
Rather
close
than
that. Yeah, let me figure
I'll
out
show
how
all of
to
that to
shut
the whole
that
world.
up now that I put it out there. I'll have to change it.
Too late.
Too
I
late.
didn't see all of it, so thankfully we're good. I think.
Okay,
For a new open API?
I need to think about it. Yeah, so just for your information, I won't switch screens just yet because you know the problems here with this. But so I put in about $10 into the go into the OpenAI developer portal, and you put in $10, and you can tell it to renew or not. I haven't even used the $10 yet. I mean, I've been doing a little bit of. I usually use Bedrock at work, and then I use a Llama, and so I'm cheap, right? I try to stay off paying a lot of money, so I like a Llama, and then they're really the same performance. If you've got a Silicon Mac, even excuse me, you've seen me, on your M3. A Llama model, a small model, works fairly decent in a few seconds, comes back with the response. Now, if you're trying to do a big PDF, right, it's going to be a lot slower and maybe not very well. Okay, let's move on. This tool's agent is a little more complex. Let me go here. This is not. Tool allows me to tool. Let me see. Let me go to the code. I can probably run it. This one, again, Chat API, base tool. I only need to call base tool once, even on multiple tools. So here, I got a calculator base tool. I think a web base tool. Again, similar code, right? The calculator tool, same similar to what we did before. Web tool, though, you can do a number of things with the web tools, right? This is just your standard REST API. You can use something called Tavily, is my favorite package, Tavily. Again, there's a free trial and a paid account and whatever, but Tavily is a really good web search tool. I used it to create an agent that might go look up baseball scores. It goes, finds a particular website. You just ask ChatGPT, what was the baseball score? Who won the score from, like the Saints from December 2015? It won't give you the right answer. I guarantee it from years ago, it won't find that. But there's baseball score sites and stuff, or football score sites that have all this information on there. And tools like Tavily will go figure that out, those particular websites out, that have the specific, I don't know how they do it actually, but that's why they're there. You don't have to build all that. You just make use of the tool that someone else has already spent a lot of time figuring out how to make that best tool to search the web for a particular type of information on the web, and then you pull that tool in. So here's where I did the web search tool, and then a Python code you can create code from it, and then tool use agent and create the agent, just like we did the calculator. You can create the calculator and the chat history, and then basically run the tool agent loop, and then have some exercises in there for you to do. Let me see if I can just run a quick demo. Then we'll run the travel agent one. I gotta figure out where I am here. Kill the calculator one. tool, go there, and I think this is set up to run. Let me see if it works. It does, it runs, hey. So it is showing you which tool it can use. I mentioned the calculator, web search, Python executor, and let's go ahead and just use the ones that are there, except I'll modify it a little bit. And then it's going to call the agent, and then do it. So that's actually just like the calculator, because it's just using the calculator. It's figuring out that you asked that. But how do I get back to the top? Let me see if it will. Thinking. It did the web search one because it thought I was looking for a list of something. But so that's an important concept, right? I didn't say what is % of that. I did list, and then it figured out which tool it needed to try to answer the question list. List what? Well, so I have actually in here some prompts that are kind of like what I mentioned when I used the React agent. I gave it some intelligent topics. I'd have to open the code up again. Where's the code? I'm having some trouble here. Where's the code?
Close that one. I think you
Close.
got too many tabs open.
I don't know what I have open.
It's an exit.
This is, I can't see anything. This might be it.
Do you need the windsurf bar on the side? You might get more room if you close the right side bar. With the X.
Let me show you something. I'll do it this way. In the tool agent, I think it will describe that it has some of the prompts in it. It's a custom tool, inherits a lang chain based tool.
That's actually pretty cool.
And
Nice to say.
I put some JSON strings in it. Yeah, error handling. Oh, and flow, a simplified flow of how it works. I can do. How does it know about Frederick Python? You can, yeah. It tells you how the code is figuring out that there's Frederick Python in it. I have specific prompts in there for that. So the agent doesn't know anything special. It has system guides is what I used it to helpful about the context to ask it about Frederick Python. So that's how it knew that when I did the word list to go look specifically for Frederick Python. Again, that's, or I could have done something else, but okay.
Oh yeah, I'm having a lot of fun with this. It's pretty cool.
So now hopefully it goes into the Pythonic executor tool. And great, the agent greets a user, it listens to the user, you can run code in your terminal. It's just telling you, let me just do it very basic. Oh, okay, well, you get the idea. You might have to make the agent a little smarter. But it's identifying that what kind of script you want, right? So that's what it's doing. All right, so let me go on here to see how we're doing on time.
Probably about time, so if you got some short.
Yeah, okay.
So just try to wrap up.
Okay. Oh, I don't know how to do this. My head's a little fancy. You want to see the fanciest one? So this is not mine. Nurbar web repo. I have all this in the things we're gonna give you or on my Obion. I'll link to it. There's a number of demos, other demos. The file demo got kind of complicated, so I didn't want to demo it today. I had it working where I could chat with the file tool, and it will create a file or create a folder, create a file. And then with all the folders and structures and then make it delete and all that, it just was getting a mess. And I was spending an hour trying to code it, even with the Windsurf, I was using Windsurf to fix it, and it was just getting too complicated. So some things are barely complicated and they're gonna take and be a lot harder. for you than that. But that's why maybe some model context protocol tools that already incorporate a files agent is a better way to go. So that kind of took you down one path where go down that other path, right? If you're going to use something like, even if you want to search a GitHub repo, you can use an MCP server now that is a GitHub repo search tool, and just add that MCP server to search your GitHub repo and then ask questions about your GitHub repo. Or you can tell it, install this for my GitHub repo with poetry, and then add additional agent to it uses WinSurf and add to the calculator agent from this repo, add the web search agent using Tably, click run, and then it will ask you for your Tably key, and then keep fixing the code until it runs for you, and then keep adding to it. So that's a way to use it. Okay, so let me go on now to travel agent. Okay, let's get rid of this on the left. I think I know what I'm doing. Okay, AI, and you can look through this code yourself.
iPhone app or something?
Yeah, I can also show you that I can do it in WinSurf. Or I could just say run the AI travel agent app. I think it will work. See what it's doing? It's using agents to go, WinServer's got all these agents built in to do all that. And starting Streamlit, and it except that this is how you program. This is a new way of vibe coding and coding. Okay, see?
You could have done all night with that vibe coding.
Yeah. This is your new way of coding. I'm just sitting, drinking a beer, just sitting here coding. Run the app with the correct path, and it launches my Streamlit, and it's running, and bam. If I said create a web app with the agent, it will do this that quick. And now I can do this. All right, give me my itinerary. I need to know how to spell itinerary. Yeah, it will actually. It will actually fix. That. I'm a jazz pianist, by the way.
Alright, that's cool.
I'm going to be rather oblique with it, and just, not give it the date, see what happens, and click go get the travel information.
So is this agent just AI dot travel?
Well, this code is actually downloadable from NIBAR. You can actually probably Google that or ChatGPT, his website, but I'll give you all the links. They're probably in my slides. Let me see if this come up with the right answer first. So here, you can go to his repo and download this one, but I'm going to give you awesome LLM apps. I thought I had another link to that on my slide. Anytime you put the word awesome in front of awesome agents or awesome LLM apps, last night I was trying to paste a picture of that into a slide for y'all, but just go to awesome LLM apps on the repo and you'll get a ton of curated agentic applications for both LLM RAG, LLM agents, LLM audio, LLM speech, you name it, a whole list of 100 things that you can just download, and if you do WindSurf, it will help you set it all up in a matter of seconds. And you could try out literally probably 10 apps in an hour in an evening without, like we used to spend, I used to write one app for a month and get stuck.
Awesome LLM.
Awesome LLM apps repo, and I think you'll find it. So here it gave me, hey, I told it just a park I like to run in, and it asking me which park, Audubon or City Park, and I told it a Jazz, so it gave me these answers. Then I would need to put this back in and refine it more, and it would come up with more information. So anyway, I'll just now just stop and say I really enjoy presenting new information to folks, and hope that this both leads you into both a new hobby of programming or just a hobby of using AI far better than you're using it. And I'll just open it up for questions. And also, you can reach me on my LinkedIn anytime, or if you want to engage in a discussion. I like to learn from people. Happy to discuss things further. I'll be back for other meetups, and I love meeting people and learning from everybody. So happy to hear from you in the future. Any questions?
Any questions for Glenn?
Overwhelmed.
Thank you, Glenn. Awesome.
Thank y'all for coming this evening.
I promised I was going to overwhelm you with information. That's